Hi. So because of the recent water curtailment of eastern Idaho, there have been a lot of people complaining about what's been going on with the water there. And there's two sides to the argument. One, eastern Idaho has been using up too much water and it's been causing issues for the Magic Valley and central Idaho. And on the other side of the argument, eastern Idaho people are saying there is tons of water because of the lots of water we had this spring, and there are no concerns for water this year. I don't know specifically what the real concern is there, but I know there's a solution. And the solution that I would like to discuss right now is swales. Let me show a quick video
of swale systems. So most of the time are swales on slope. They're a mound excavated out from the trench to the mound, and our topsoil is increased at the mound and it's loose. And most of the time we're planting trees up on the mound here and just below. In deserts we may plant inside because we've got less rainfall and it's hard to drown the trees in the desert. So you may move inside, but the infiltration of water is at right angle to contour and it plumes away as it sits here and then soaks in. We also plant the back slope, often leguminous trees on the back slope here, fixing nitrogen.
So the first video that I saw of Jeff Lawton's, credit to Jeff Lawton for all this, was a video called Greening the Desert, where he went to a small patch of land about 2 kilometers from the Dead Sea. And he put in swales and trees like that. And when he went back to Australia, he got a call from one of the people managing it, and they were freaked out because they were growing mushrooms in the swales because the amount of water that was being retained was so great. Mushrooms were coming up. The local government came in thinking they were stealing water, and they found out they were using 1/10 the amount of water that everyone else around was using. And they also noticed that they were desalting the soil. The fungus and then the mycelium in the swales were actually pushing back the salt or locking it up. So if we could do this on the benches and the slopes around the valleys, most of them are probably farmed, but those farmers that want to be involved in major water retention, they could do this, and they could do more of a silvopasture type of a situation where they have a swale and then the interswale, so swale, the ends between the two swales can still be farmed. And if they wanted to have it planned out that way, then not as much farmland would be taken up in the trees. And you don't have to have tons and tons of trees. You could just have maybe a 10-foot gap for swale trees, 10 feet, and then the rest could be into farmland for the interswale. One problem with that is pivots. You need to figure out what to do with pivots if you've got pivots on the land, which a lot of farmers do. But I suppose instead of going with big trees like that, you could go with more bushes to protect the swales. You don't want to walk over the swale mound. You want it to stay really light and fluffy. You don't want the soil compacted on the swale mound. But if we put bushes in there instead of trees, that would still help. It wouldn't be as good as trees, but that would be something you could do for the farmers that have the pivots and wouldn't be able to water otherwise. You could, instead of doing that, flood irrigate, just flood the swale and let the water in the swale soak into the land, and let that be the way you water. That would be probably the best as far as mitigating the amount of evaporation happening. There would be potentially, you wouldn't be able to, or you would not be able to water as precisely because you're relying on flood irrigation and the water plume making it through to feed all of your crops or water all your crops. But it would be the most beneficial, not economically, ecologically. There you go. Virtually no evaporation other than the water that evaporates out of the swale itself. But if you've got a lot of carbon material in there that the water sits in, or fill the swale up with rock, the water would sit in and under the rock so that the sun wouldn't hit the water, wouldn't be able to evaporate the water would all be able to soak in. You'd be able to greatly increase the amount of water going into the aquifer that way. The one of the major complaints that farmers would probably have, other than being able to run their pivots across a system that had swales in it, is if you're going to plant trees or potentially shrubs there, what type of, or that'll be a fair amount of revenue lost. Not if you plan on putting something there that's actually a cash flow positive item. If you're doing bushes, there are lots of berry bushes that can be harvested. You could do gooseberries, raspberries, huckleberries, all the berries. If you were able to do trees, you could do walnut, cherry, apple, pick your fruit. And if it can grow in this area, you can pop it on the swale. Or if you want to do more long-term crop, you could do a timber crop, which would be, again, walnut would be a really expensive wood. That would be great. Oak, a lot of people like the look of oak and wouldn't mind buying oak. Hickory is a beautiful wood that a lot of people would like. Pine, you could just do a straight pine forest along there and sell that into the lumber industry. And that way we wouldn't have to deforest our hillsides for lumber. We could actually utilize some of our farmland to feed the amount of lumber that is needed and lower the costs of building stick-built homes. So it could be a tremendous benefit in that direction. Another video that I actually wanted to show you is from the Great Depression, when they decided to put swales in Arizona.
The fundamental structure of the government's work relief program in the Great Plains is construction of dams. Rain will fall, and when it falls, it must be saved. Water must be diverted to old waterways and empty basins. We have farmed and we have fought the drought with haphazard methods too long. Partial solution: little dams wherever there is a little water to be caught. Taken as a whole, these engineering and agricultural undertakings are almost incredible in their scope. Two concepts underlie the entire program: give men the opportunity to work and let the results of their labor have permanent value.
I'm in the flat bottom land here, kind of a penny plain in the Sonora Desert, and it's not much fertility around. It's pretty sparse vegetation actually. And this here is an 80-year-old swale bank put in the Great Depression in the Roosevelt era. And it's a big one. And as I walk over the top, then you see this obvious event starts to happen. The trees get green and big, and the vegetation gets really lush. And
just look at that. The amount of vegetation that he's walking into, and that's walking basically from the desert into a garden. And that's out in the middle of nowhere where no one's watering this. It's all just getting its water from collecting in that swale area. It's crazy how much water or how much vegetation can grow if the water is collected for it just a little bit.
this is something you need to really understand. So here, as we go into the lower trench of the swale, we go into a complete cover of vegetation. This is leaf amaranth, what they call in the Caribbean callaloo, and it's way taller than my head in places, and obviously indicating it's extremely fertile in here and very well watered. The trees are very lush, and it's a nutrient and water gathering system. There's a whole sequence of plants in here, and nobody planted these planted themselves. This is a self-replicating food garden.
So if that was all just planted through happenstance, birds and wind sending seeds that direction, just imagine how much more beneficial it could be if there's a little bit of intelligent design there and people went in and planted things that were monetarily beneficial, but also beneficial for the community and the nation. Instead of having the amaranth there, put in tomatoes or potatoes. Sure, why not? Something else that I wanted to show was this picture. This is in the Loess Plateau in China. It's one of the tributaries to the Yellow River, I'm pretty sure. This is a before and after photo of what they did to help with major erosion issues and just drought issues year round or every year. What they did, which I'm happy that it was finished, not exactly happy with how the Communist Party did things. So they moved all the farmers off of the land. Not happy about that part. But then they did major earthworks, putting in tons of terraces. And then when they put in the terraces, they forested everything that they could. And by doing so, they solidified the ground so it minimized the amount of erosion. And then it increased the amount of vegetation for the animals to eat by, or all you can see, is that 100-fold, 1,000-fold? It's a major increase in the amount of food that the animals can eat. If it can be managed properly at this point, that will provide sustenance for that valley and for that plateau for forever. There are actually food forests in Morocco that are over 2,000 years old that they didn't even realize it was a food forest until just within the last decade or so. So we in Idaho can do things like this. I would prefer that it be a voluntary type of situation where each farmer sees the benefit of it and takes it upon himself to get this done. If he can get some government assistance, I don't think that would be a bad thing, because this would benefit the community, the state, and the entire nation if we're able to make our water more effective, our water usage more effective for everyone. It would eliminate or mitigate erosion by quite a bit. That's one of the biggest exports that we have in this nation is topsoil by tonnage. More tons of soil leave this nation than anything else at this point, which is kind of sad because without topsoil, we all die. But it could be a great benefit for the farmer, a great benefit for the community, and a great benefit for the nation. I'd love to hear if you have any ideas of how to change or improve the water quality in Idaho. And if you have any solutions for the curtailment issues, please say below. And always like, share, and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.